ESPN.com put together a piece about the 32 teams in the NFL and how they rank for the future. So you're looking 3 to 5 years down the line. That's very difficult to do because of free agency and the draft, but that's what they tasked some of their experts with doing. They had Ben Solak, Louis Riddick, Aaron Schatz, and Seth Walder ranked each team, quarterback situation, the rest of the roster outside of quarterback, the roster makeup, the front office, and the coaching staff. And they put it together and ranked the entire NFL. Their ranking looks like a school ranking. A+ is elite, it's 100%. An A is 90 to 99. B is 80 to 89. C, 70 to 79. D, 51 to 69. You get the point. An F is below 50. And so Philadelphia got the highest score at 92.6, as you would imagine, coming off Super Bowl. And Baltimore's right there at number 2. And then Kansas City's at number 3. The general suspects, the Bills at number 4. And you got the Lions at number 5. Those teams have had sustained excellent play over the last couple of years, in some cases more than that. And that makes a lot of sense. And I didn't expect the Saints to be anywhere near the top. But I was curious, like, where the Saints would eventually grade out. And I kept scrolling, and I kept scrolling, and I kept scrolling, and you got to the bottom. Saints dead last, 32 in this list. They ranked the overall roster at 63.5. That's 31st in the NFL, second to last. Quarterback, you got 2 brand new ones essentially, 28th in the NFL. Coaching, 31st. And then the front office, the Saints received the worst grade in the NFL. That group gave the front office 53.3. That is nearly a failing grade on this metric. Now, I'm not here to yell and scream and rant and rave or kick the Saints when they're down because ESPN said they had the worst roster 2 weeks ago and they rated every roster and have them as the worst future. What I would like to do is point out this instance here. When you look at what they ranked and you look at quarterback, well, the Saints just made a change. You're not stuck with a quarterback now. You're not stuck with Derek Carr. You've made a change. You've got the opportunity for massive upward mobility because you have made a change. You're not locked in to a massive contract with an aging player who's underperforming or hurt. That's what you had with Derek Carr. You no longer have that. That's not the case for the Saints anymore. So you've got a chance, as I said, for upward mobility there. Coaching, you're ranked 31st. Well, that's because your coach has never coached a game before. Now, he may be the worst coach in the NFL. I don't know. But he might be great. And you've made a change. You're not locked in with a boring, old, proven liability, which Dennis Allen, in his entirety of his head coaching career, was that. He never won anything at 2 stops ever. So you don't have that anymore. So you've got a chance for rapid upward mobility there as well. So it's not that the Saints have underperformers in those 2 positions. They have unknowns. Well, unknowns get known pretty quick, and that's what we're going to find out. Now, the overall roster is a problem. To say you've got the 31st roster of 32 is a problem, but we know that the Saints used all their draft picks this year. We know that the Saints have some guys that are about to come off the books. We know that Derek Carr's gone, and there are some things that can happen in the next 18 months that can greatly improve the roster if young players from this draft class and last year's draft class emerge this year. Specifically, both of your tackles, your secondary with McKinstry, Riley, some of those guys, Brazee, and all of a sudden, that starts to turn upward. There is real reason for some optimism in some of these awful rankings. You just have to see it. Now, the problem is that you are locked into your front office. They're not going anywhere. Now, if you would have run this poll 8 years ago, that front office looked brilliant because the Saints were knocking on the door of the playoffs every year or in. They were knocking on the door of the conference championship often. Their restructuring of salary cap situations was thought to be masterful. And you would have gotten a great grade on these same guys 7 years ago. Loomis, not Ireland, he was late to the party, but certainly Kai Harley. And so they've done it before. They're just in a terrible position right now because of all those things that they did. And if you're a realistic Saints fan, I think you realize that ultimately it was always going to come to this. It was going to come to, yep, this is bad, we got to fix it. The likelihood that you were going to go from pushing every chip to your name in for Drew Brees and making all that work, and then right when Drew Brees walks out the door and then Sean Payton walked out the door, we're fine, let's just pick it right up. Like, if you thought that was going to happen, that's ambitious. If you're realistic, you're like, okay, we were always going to have to reset this whole thing, and now that's happening. So maybe with a reset and getting some of these guys off the book and freeing up some money for the first time in well over a decade, things can get better. So I would suggest that this ranking, while unfortunate for the next 4 months of your fandom, like, I don't have any expectation for this season. So the next 4 months, not going to be a lot of fun. The fact that ESPN ranked the Saints the worst roster in the league 3 weeks ago and then comes back with a new panel, with a new exercise, and has the Saints at the bottom again, like, that's not great for the next 4 months. I get that. I'm not really trying to sugarcoat that. I have no interest in sugarcoating that. But I don't think it's sugarcoating it to suggest, hey, you've got these things that people think you're bad at. It's not because they know you're bad at it. It's because they don't know what you've got. And that's what this year is about, and that's what the hope is for the next 4 months. The hope shouldn't be, well, maybe they'll win like 13 games to get home field advantage. The hope should be, man, Shook, that was a hell of a Sunday. That was a great 3 hours. The hope should be, you see those plays Quincy Riley made? The hope should be, oh, now Brian Brzez's stopping the run. He's a multi-dimensional threat at defensive tackle. The hope should be, we got our tackles for the next 8 years. These two dudes have got it. The hope should be Olave and Shaheed just played 17 games at full speed. The hope should be Kendre Miller just showed me something. And if all that stuff starts to happen, which is not wildly unreasonable, this won't look like that next August. You'll be closer to the middle of the pack. You're at the bottom of the Saints rebuild at this point. I can see a situation where they lose a lot of games this year and draft another quarterback next year, but you're, from a roster perspective, save that one position at the bottom because you're expensive and old at a lot of places. But that's going to get fixed. Father Time will win that battle. Eventually, you won't be paying a ton of money to Cam Jordan. Eventually, you won't be paying a ton of money to Tyrann Mathieu, who just stepped away. Eventually, you won't be paying a ton of money to Derek Carr. Eventually, you will not be paying a ton of money to Taysom Hill. These are certainties in Saints land. Not like if, certainties. So things are changing. The outlook for 4 months is not good. I don't believe the outlook for 4 years, based on this poll and this metric, has to be doom and gloom. I don't think that. But you've got to see some stuff happen over the next 4 months to reinforce that positively. That's the entirety of this situation with the black and gold. So yeah, it sucks to click on the ESPN article at the top of the homepage and go, oh, where's my team? Last. That sucks. But you understand you're not trapped at last. You're just there for what we hope to be a very brief time. Hey, it's on. Thanks for watching Hunt on Saints. Before you leave, help us out a little bit. Hit that like button, leave your comments in the section below, and hit that subscribe button so you get all our content right here from Hunt on Saints. We'll see you next time.